Hi guys, this is Sexy Irish Sean, and I got a prediction for 2024.
No, you don't, because we're going to talk over you, because I think our predictions are way more important than yours. In fact, we're going to turn off your mic so you can't talk.
But I got this really great prediction for 2024 for board games and crowdfunding and Kickstarter and GameFound and stuff.
No, you can't talk. You got too much to say. Okay, fine, we'll let you talk.
Okay, here is my prediction for 2024. It is...
Game begin.
Let's go.
Vegeta, what does the scouter say about his marketing level?
It's over 9,000!
What, 9,000? I must be using Crowdfunding Nerds.
Amazing.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. I am your host, Andrew Lowen, and I am joined, I hope I can say as always, by Rick and Sean. Rick is been pretty consistent on our podcast now. This is episode number 2 in a row.
It's because I have a working microphone. Also, I only attend the most important podcasts, so if it's really important, I'll be there.
Yeah. Rick, I just like the sound of your sweet soprano voice. You're by far
my
the
voice
best
is horrible. I hate listening to my voice. In fact, when I listen, sometimes I'll listen to the podcast once they get published. I'm like, I'm horrible. It's horrible.
I imagine that your real singing voice is like the soprano singer from Pentatonics. You know, the really high
Soprano?
voice dude.
Whew.
Yeah, that's what I think. I don't know if it's
Sole mio.
Well, my conspiracy theory is that Rick is actually being replaced by AI, and when you listen to him, you just listen to AI. He doesn't exist anymore.
Oh,
Rick,
there is a crazy tool I found online, and it's legit. We'll have to share this in the notes. I have to find it again. But literally, it's a voice AI tool where it's generated like hundreds of voices with different accents and stuff like that. However, if you can take a minute of someone's voice and record it continuously, it will be able to recreate anything you type. So like you can take some kind of famous like actor, and if you have a minute of their recording of them talking, it will take that and it'll be able to turn that into anything. And then you can just type what you want them to say and they'll say it. It is crazy.
That's pretty.
And that's
pretty
out
wild.
now, today. Speaking of today, we have been on the air for 3 years. It's our 3-year anniversary. And guess what? We got to go over our horrible predictions from last year that we thought would happen. And we're going to go over our really cool predictions for 2024, because I got some really great ideas that I think are going to happen. And I'm just going to be number 1 next year, I think.
Dang. Well, first of all, you're a week late. We did that. We reached our 3-year anniversary last week.
Close enough.
But,
It's all recorded on the same day.
The real Richard would have known that. AI Rick.
Yeah, Rick. AI Rick, can you please say all your base are belong to us?
All your base are belong to us.
All right.
I don't even get that thing, that meme.
Yeah, it's from an old Japanese game that was just horribly translated. So it became a thing. But
was it Atari's ET?
Yeah, I don't know. It's so anyway, let's dive into this episode. On this episode, we are going to discuss our predictions that we made for the year 2023 that is now in its final week, and our predictions for 2024. So we're going to take a look back and a look forward. We'll talk about our favorite moments from 23, memorable moments and that kind of thing. And then we'll probably fight about politics a little bit because next year's an election year. And so hopefully Ross Thompson from episode 102 with his how to talk about politics on the internet. Hopefully we retain some of that information so that we are, I don't know, very, so that we still have listeners next week. Is that the right way to say it? All right. So let's get into our predictions. I had 2. I think each of us had 2 predictions, and Sean only had 1 and I had 3. So I guess we'll start off with me because I talked the most last year.
Sean's got more than 1. It was just mistyped. You can't have 2 number 1s. We're looking at our notes from last year's show notes for the episode, and it said one of them is why Sean uses RSS. Do you still use RSS, Sean?
Yes.
You're very complacent.
It's the way that you get information without algorithm, which means it can't be censored.
Yeah.
Thinking ahead.
Okay. So okay, let's get into predictions. From last year, my prediction number 1 was that manufacturing is going to stay in China. The reason that I made that prediction was because you're crazy if you manufacture anywhere else other than China. But so this was at the end of 2022 that we made these predictions, and everybody had just been dealing with this insane shipping spike, and everybody's begging for a way to ship or to manufacture things outside of China. There are a few places that can do that. Ludofact is based out of Germany. We've got other manufacturers like Delano in the US. We've got others that make like playing cards like Magic uses a US, a European, other kind of manufacturing hubs for their cards. But the vast majority of manufacturing is going to stay in China. This is my prediction, and it is true. I get a point. I grant myself 1 point. Actually, let's make it 5 because I run this podcast and I can do what I want. And so, yeah, manufacturing is absolutely staying in China because, I mean, they're the dominant toy and game manufacturing country. They're just so well set up for it. If you go to China, you have regions of China that are based that are actually set up for like specific types of like materials. So one region of China is set up to manufacture steel, another region plastic, another region paper, cardstock, another region, etc. And that's something that I was really surprised to learn as we manufactured our game. But it's factories in China often outsource things. Like the most common things would be like miniatures. When you have to do a set of miniatures for your game, the factory itself will do all the paper things, but they'll outsource to a steel mold company that will machine out your steel molds. But before that, they actually need to make what are called the master molds, which are like a plastic tooling company. And oftentimes these are in entirely separate regions. And the reason I know this is because Hirsch Glick from from Hero Time, he actually walked into a miniature, like a steel mold miniature making factory that had Deliverance minis as their in their case of minis they were proud of to show off and whatnot. And so it's kind of a cool thing. But anyway, manufacturing is going to stay in China. I believe manufacturing will, in the short term, always stay in China. I mean, it's not, 50 years from now, who knows if we'll even have, I think we'll have global thermonuclear war within 50 years. But before that, I believe manufacturing is going to stay in China. And we might have global thermonuclear war over like China deciding to stop sending toys to the US, I think. But I think manufacturing is going to stay in China for the near future and the far future.
Yeah, I think there'll be a few games that will be more green based that will come out. The problem is a lot of people want to make their games green, but when they find out how much the cost is to make it green, then they realize they wouldn't be able to sell it because people wouldn't pay, the amount of money required to keep it green.
Yeah. If you want to manufacture outside of China, you basically are limiting yourself to wooden components and paper components. That's it. So if you want anything plastic, dice or miniatures or you name it, then you are manufacturing in China, or you're outsourcing to a company you're using a company that will outsource products from China. So you'll be manufacturing in China. So that one, I guess, is kind of a quick one. Rick, what's your first prediction?
One of my predictions last year was that manufacturing costs will go up, but backers will go down. I think you'll have to give me like a 2.5 or 2 stars on that one, because I think manufacturing costs did go up, but the backers went up. We did have a bad economy this last year. However, I think disposable income is still high, and I believe that more disposable income is coming because the economy is getting better. Because of that, to continue on with this prediction, I still believe that there'll be global economic factors next year. There'll still be supply chain disruptions next year, and there'll still be rising production costs next year. So costs will continue to go up next year. However, backers will also continue to go up.
Yeah, I actually agree with this. I think that what we found was, so there was a recent article that was published in a lot of different places. It talked about Asmodee, I believe, or no, Hasbro cut 1,100 employees off of their various lines and reported like an overall 5% income increase. They noticed they actually had a significant loss for in the mass market sector, but their Magic Gathering, Dungeons and Dragons, and their kind of their hobby level games all did amazingly. I think they had a 40% increase in revenue from D&D, Magic the Gathering, and those types of their other properties. So hobby level games are, in my view, becoming more widely adopted, and that's actually I'm going to piggyback on Rick's prediction and say that my first prediction for next year is that we're going to have more people playing hobby level games, and that overall board game sales are going to increase due to, or we'll say tabletop games, due to like more RPGs being played and more hobby level games. What I mean by that is, mass market versus hobby games on, Kickstarter, games with miniatures, games with big chunky rules and epic playtimes are going to increase.
My prediction was actually the opposite on that part. I believe, I actually wrote this down because I have my little list. I believe that games actually this next year are going to switch to more faster streamlined, because people will want quicker gaming experiences because they don't have the time to play. In fact, solo games, I think, will go way up this next year because there's people, people have a busy life and they can't get people together at the same time. I'm in a club, and we, a couple of years ago, it was easy for all of us to get together at the same time. Now it's like we can't get anyone together at the same time. So I think that quicker games and solo gaming is going to be in vogue next year, and not longer games. So we'll have to see who wins on that one.
Okay. All right. I do tend to agree about solo games, but go ahead, John.
In terms of backers going up, I think Nemesis has been a great example of this. Their recent project on GameFound has 41,000 backers, 41,000 individual backers, which is sort of mind-boggling, especially on an alternative platform to Kickstarter. GameFound, it was able to garner so many. So actually one of my predictions is that I believe that GameFound is going to take up more of the hobby board game space market share from Kickstarter, and we're going to start seeing more of these type of campaigns on GameFound do successfully. And if you look at the recent projects this year, GameFound has just smashed it out the water with this campaign. I think they've paved the way. They've shown people what's possible on GameFound. Like, look, you can do it here too. And I think there's going to be less and less reasons to go to Kickstarter and start on a platform which is maybe less noisy, that's easier to be found and spotted. It's got all these built-in tools that are going to be helpful for you. So my prediction for next year is that GameFound is going to take more of the market share out of Kickstarter. We're going to start seeing more people move over to GameFound and Kickstarter. I think Kickstarter's still going to be there, but I think it's going to lose its umph. I do think that GameFound is going to become increasingly become a place where board gamers go to find the latest games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll say before Awaken Realms moved all of their stuff to GameFound, they ran Nemesis campaigns on Kickstarter, and I could be completely crazy, but I thought they ran like 2 of them on Kickstarter first. It might have been 1, and that was a huge one, huge. And this was back in, I want to say 2020. They ran Nemesis Lockdown. That actually had 41,900 backers. Now, this Nemesis Retaliation that they just ran on GameFound had how many? 41,408. But the first campaign in Kickstarter made like 5 million, and this one made over 12 million. It's like the third largest project ever, behind Kingdom Death Monster and whatever that Frosthaven, of course. But I think that the average spend was like $123 per backer on the first one, and this one was like close to $300 a backer, $294 per backer. Just nuts.
Money.
Yeah, so they what they were doing is they were capitalizing on everybody knowing about Nemesis and just jumping on it. And they ran, really to me it was I believe it was funded on the 23rd of November. And that, I want to say, am I crazy that was like Thanksgiving Day? It ended on Thanksgiving Day. So they ended it in theory, like the worst time ever. I think they ran the campaign for a shorter duration. They ended it at allegedly the worst time ever, but Awakened Realms dominates the holidays. I think that they could run their campaigns at any time of the year, but the holidays do really, really well. So what surprised me is that the number of the amount that backers were paying was just like crazy. And so, yes, it did less as far as the backer count than on Kickstarter, but I'm just incredibly impressed that GameFound was able to basically match. I mean, it's 500 backers different. They made a whole lot more money. They, this is definitely a better, a more successful campaign overall. But I guess I think that you're right. And I would say that that GameFound is just going to continue to become more and more of a threat to Kickstarter's number one status. So
let's put this in a bit of context. So if you look at Tabletop Analytics, you can look at Awakened Realms. Out of all their projects, so their first project was in 2016 all the way up to 2020, they raised a total of $30 million. Whilst this one campaign has raised $12 million, nearly half of everything they've ever raised on Kickstarter, they've done in this one campaign. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's like going to a game stadium, going to this large stadium to watch your favorite team play, getting there, and it's their game in the middle. 40,000 fans, all paying ridiculous like boxing prices to watch the game play.
Yeah. And what's really epic to me is that you had a ton of people jumping into that $900 pledge. I want to say there are over 500 people that jumped into the buy everything that Awakened Realms ever made for Nemesis pledge. And that is a ton of people. I mean, they had a lot of new people jump in for Nemesis, with this campaign, which is really great. So yeah, that's really cool. And actually, I had a prediction last year that Kickstarter is going to continue to lose traffic to BackerKit and GameFound. I will say, the way I look at this, I think I was like half right. BackerKit, I don't think has really taken market share other than they've taken creators from Kickstarter. So Isaac Childers with Gloomhaven, they ran a campaign with BackerKit. I believe the Spirit Island people run with BackerKit. I don't think that there are people that exclusively shop on BackerKit, though. I do think that there are people that exclusively shop on GameFound now. And so I would say that Kickstarter has not lost traffic to BackerKit, but they have lost some market share because creators are moving over and bringing their audiences and whatnot. But I would wager that the vast majority of those people also will check Kickstarter or will be exposed to Kickstarter stuff. I think that GameFound is kind of generating its own fan base and its own, I don't know, like it's a reputation. Like you cannot really, and I say this with, knowing that I could possibly be wrong, but I don't think you'd really want to go to GameFound to fund a party game, but you would definitely want to go to GameFound to, fund like for, a big chunky dungeon crawler or just a large high price point, epic game. I think GameFound is kind of becoming known for things like that. Like the Isofarian Guard reprinted their game on GameFound. We had, Planet Unknown went to GameFound for their reprint and did really well. you've got a lot of different, large projects coming to GameFound. Chip Theory Games is on GameFound. They went with their Elder Scrolls game. And so I think that GameFound is actually really starting to eat into Kickstarter's market share. I know that Kickstarter, it's possible that Kickstarter could have had a larger campaign, with Nemesis. I actually don't think they would have. I really think that GameFound is kind of starting to solidify its position as like a serious player.
Right now, BackerKit has a project on called the MCDM RPG.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tabletop role-playing game that's raised $3 million with 15 days still to go, with over 20,000 backers,
Mm-hmm.
which is incredible for a tabletop role-playing game. So BackerKit has some oomph. I don't want to write it off, but certainly I don't think it's been the next GameFound, but this is certainly a contender, particularly for role-playing games. Maybe they will carve out a niche in a certain demographic of games, or maybe that's where all the tabletop games will go, or tabletop role-playing games will go.
Yep.
I got a prediction that actually sort of lines up with all this. So let's see what you guys think. This one's really out there, but I think it's going to happen. I wrote this down. This is one of my first things I wrote down because I figured. So someone at Kickstarter is going to be like, "Hey, let's change our fee structure," and it's going to impact big time. And either it's going to cause people to stay on Kickstarter, or what I think is going to happen is they're all going to go to the other platforms because of these fees. So I think they're going to do some fee changes next year. I think people are going to get sick of it, and they're going to go either to BackerKit or GameFound, and that's going to solidify GameFound definitely, and of course bring up BackerKit. I think it's going to cause Kickstarter to sort of drop and no longer be that powerhouse. What do you guys think of that?
Well, what I would say, I'm not entirely sure, because Kickstarter is sort of a strange company. It's not a for-profit corporation. It's for the public good, is how it's set up. So it's kind of, it's got,
That's what they say.
Kind of it's kind of got this activist arm. So I think they've made so much money through other channels that board games, tabletop games, they're not really too reliant on it. What I'm saying is, I think if they lost all the tabletop gaming space, I think they'd still be fine as a platform because everything else is there. So I'm not entirely sure if a fee structure will really be detrimental to them, or if they would even consider increasing it, because I don't know if profit making is the core of their sort of ideology as a company. I think it's important, but I
disagree with this. I do think I see what point you're getting at, but I do think that Kickstarter is, at the end of the day, has to make money, and I think that they're more they were more of an ideologue company when the former CEO was in charge, and I think that now that the new CEO, I think his name is Everett Taylor, came in, there's a focus back to kind of the grassroots of helping creators bring projects to life, and they've kind of taken a step back from being so political and whatnot. So I think that, and they're doing things to try to catch up and compete with GameFound. Like, new projects have anchor links, like GameFound had this really cool thing that they did on the story page on the left of a GameFound campaign, where you get to see the various links like stretch goals, add-ons, reviews, and risks and challenges and other things like that. And so the various sections, they had anchor links, and Kickstarter has now added that. And so I think Kickstarter is really trying to compete to retain their board game audience. I will say that last I looked, it was about 38% of Kickstarter's revenue last year, which was, the last year that I looked, I haven't looked this year, $220 million was what they raised for creators, and they take 5% of that. I think that would be devastating if they were to lose that, and that they're going to fight really hard to keep it. But that said, I mean, they make $440 million from other avenues, so I would wager to say that they wouldn't ruin them. But one day, I do think that they're going to admit defeat to GameFound in the board game space, and they'll, I don't know, probably just have to lick their wounds and accept the loss. There's going to come a time, I think, of a critical mass change to from Kickstarter being the main board game place to GameFound being the main board game place, which I guess could be a prediction. I don't think it'll happen next year though. But I do think that GameFound is going to continue to assert dominance in the to take away market share until they become the dominant force in board games for hobby level board games.
So I have another prediction. I predict that in 2024.
I wanted to respond to Rick because I know what I wanted to say. I completely forgot and don't want to.
My brain came back on.
Yes. So now the price structure thing, I think that it would be a huge mistake for Kickstarter to do that. And I think that it's not out of the realm of possibility for Kickstarter to reevaluate their fees and that kind of thing. We actually recently saw Unity did this in the video game space, and they experienced a massive problem, mass exodus from people using Unity. So basically what they did was they said, all right, we're going to charge you guys monthly for the number of downloads or whatever. And if you make over a certain amount, then our fees are going to kick in, or extra fees are going to kick in. And then we're going to, if you make a bunch, then our fees will be, the extra fee that you receive is going to be a smaller percentage of the overall game. But they basically did it because they wanted to make more money from the people using their server or their software. They were under the impression that people had no viable alternative, or that the alternative was too painful to switch. Well, it turns out that that CEO is spending more time with his family and is no longer the CEO of the company. But yeah, so he got his butt kicked out, and now a new guy is like, hey, let's throttle back on all those changes we were promising. But of course the damage is done, and now Unity is experiencing some serious layoffs because there are fewer people buying their stuff. Now, this happened with very similar happened this year with Wizards of the Coast and their Dungeons and Dragons, their attempt to revoke the open gaming license. This happened earlier this year. And, it's crazy that was this year that happened. People understood, I feel like the consumer has never been more powerful than now. And that was really on display with both Unity and Wizards of the Coast, where people just rebelled against the man for increasing prices beyond. It
also happened this year with Reddit. I believe they wanted to bring some type of charge for developers using their API, which was going to be just ridiculously expensive, and a lot of moderators use it to help moderate. So it basically, I think there's all these moderators putting their
subreddits
putting them on private and kind of like a forced change. So they also try to do something like that.
Wow. I remember big subreddits like the art subreddit and other things like that were put on private and just basically shut off. So Reddit's whatever their ad revenue just dropped like through the floor. That's pretty wild. Yeah, I think
didn't when Reddit had that big Reddit Armageddon where everyone was going private because they didn't like their fees. Didn't like Reddit pretty much tell them that if they don't go public, they'll replace them. Wasn't that on the table, I think, at one time?
I think so. They said that they're going to replace mods and that kind of thing, but I don't know. I mean, I don't really understand how much mods get paid for large subreddits, but I figure you would probably need to be willing to do it. You probably need to want to do that.
I don't get paid for my subreddit. From it.
Yeah.
There's no money.
They get paid in power and it's feeling like they're a god amongst peons.
Mere mortals. Yeah.
One more side note, which is sort of in the line. Sorry, Sean, we're just pushing you away. You don't get any predictions in this episode. So this year, the original Mickey Mouse loses his trademark and copyright protection. The first two Mickey Mouse shows, the artwork and stuff is no longer, his image in those shows is no longer protected. So I think there's going to be a Mickey Mouse board game coming out of Kickstarter or GameFound or something where he's on the Steamboat Willie. Steamboat Willie is going to be out there.
That's crazy. I have a feeling that Disney is just ready for lawsuits because that's not something that they're gonna.
Well, what's weird is Oswald, which was the original before Mickey, Walt's first creation or first known creation. They made a new show or movie. I can't remember if it was a show or movie to protect his copyright. So they actually just recently released a new show or movie with the character as he was to redo the copyright protection on that. But they didn't do it for the original Mickey Mouse. So I thought that was really interesting.
Well, I guess it's always something that could happen, but maybe Mickey is not the draw. Maybe he's well known, but he's not the draw.
I think it's sort of like Winnie the Pooh, because I believe some of the characters in Winnie the Pooh lost their protection. And of course, there's that new weird, scary movie that everyone talks about that I haven't seen yet that's out there somewhere.
A guy wearing a Winnie the Pooh furry costume that kills people. So I pretty much spoiled it.
I think we should let Sean talk now. Sean,
okay, yeah, Sean, predict something.
My prediction for 2024 is that Deliverance is going to be once again number one on the hotness list for Board Game Geek. I have a feeling that when Andrew goes to Kickstarter or GameFound again with Deliverance and he runs a competition and his community is engaged on the platform, I think Deliverance is going to hit that number one spot once again and we'll be there for a couple of days. So that's my one prediction for 2024.
Okay.
Woo, woo. Well, go hot list.
I hope it happens. Yeah. We hit the number one hotness. We did a contest and then we got popular because of a bunch of different threads. And we currently are still, hot for on Board Game Geek with various reviews and that kind of thing. So that's cool. We're definitely developing more of a fan base there, which was super hard to do. I just felt like our fans were not on Board Game Geek early on, and we had to earn them. And I felt like we finally started to earn fans on Board Game Geek when our product was available for purchase instead of from Kickstarter. And so that was an interesting thing to learn, which I don't think is the same for everybody, but it was. We
also have systems, right? So I think at the end of the campaign, there's a link to go to Board Game Geek and you encourage people to leave reviews. So I think when people have played the game, they're excited, they want to leave a review, you kind of say, oh, you can do it here. And then they're creating accounts and they're getting into the Board Game Geek system that way.
Yeah.
I'm going to create a 1-star review because I don't think any of the real reviews are legit, just to balance it out.
We had, that was
Sounds
interesting. So we're going to go back to Kickstarter this year, and I'm predicting over the summer is kind of what we're targeting at least. But when we went to Kickstarter last year, in 2021, we competed against The Witcher Old World, and that was an extremely popular campaign. It had 45,000 backers, and it made almost $7 million or something around there. And it was kind of a similar fantasy dungeon crawl, and we had some backers come over from The Witcher, but I would say the vast majority of people, because Witcher was well known and it was made by a company that had actually produced board games before, not like any huge board games, but they were proven to deliver and all of that. We just, with the big IP, we were just like small fry in the pond. And so what I want to be is I want to be like the big juggernaut campaign that everyone's like, oh, I don't want to launch on Kickstarter when Deliverance launches. And I don't know that that's going to happen for this next one, but I think my hope is that, we aren't going to be competing directly with a big IP in a similar niche like The Witcher.
Have you settled on Kickstarter?
I have not. I'm not sure about GameFound or Kickstarter.
Just gotta wait for those fees to change first, and then he'll decide.
Yeah.
But I'm surprised. Maybe I'm wrong because I'm a little hermit and I stay in my room and I do my little things. I do my Rick things. I'm surprised there's not like a website out there. There probably is, but maybe it's not not well known, that actually goes over all the launch dates for those things. Like, for example, when I did affiliate marketing, affiliate marketers didn't want to like same thing. They didn't want to overstep or be in front of like a big thing, or if they're things like that. So there was a calendar where people would go to and they'd say, "Hey, I'm doing this on this date," and people would post all their different marketing dates when they were launching their products. Is there something similar like that for board game crowdfunding, or no?
Well, there are a couple of places that will allow you to post your event when you're going to crowdfunding and that kind of thing. But the problem that I think there is with this is that the big companies don't post, and it's not like there's any money in helping everybody understand what companies are launching when. So you got guys like Simon, Chip Theory Games, and Orange Nebula, and all of the big companies that don't need to post this information. So a lot of the time you have smaller publishers sharing, but the big projects that are the really big draws, they are oftentimes just unknown. I mean, these companies will announce when they're going to Kickstarter or GameFound or whatever, and their fans will get that information. But a lot of the time, a new creator with a similar game type is not necessarily going to even know who that company is. And so it's like it's almost like you're a blind person throwing darts at a dartboard at the same time as all of the big publishers throwing their bigger darts at the same dartboard.
I think it works so well in the affiliate marketing niche industry because even the big guys would need to build their community for people to sell their product. So if you were an affiliate already for the bigger community, they'd already tell you like when they're launching their products. So even you would know when the big guys were going as well as the little guys.
Awesome. Well, then let me make a quick prediction as a piggyback. I predict we make $1 million on a Deliverance campaign this year.
Whoop, whoop.
There you go. My big, hairy, audacious goal. Carry on, Sean.
Cool. My next prediction is I think we're going to start seeing more religious themed board games coming to the market. I think this is going to be because people are going to see the success of things like Deliverance, The Flood by Bedouin Games, the Nehemiah game that's just come out. I know Bedouin Games, the creators of The Flood, they've got quite a few biblical themed board games in the works. So I think as more of these games come out and frankly tapping into demographics that are unreached and bringing in more people into the hobby space, I think there's going to be a growing desire for religious themed games. So that's my sort of prediction for 2023. I don't know if they'll come to market by 2023, 2024. But I certainly believe that we're going to start seeing more of them pop up and start a lot of them being marketed or at least being produced. So that'll be interesting to see how that all develops.
Yeah, that it's interesting to see there. It seems like the general community it has historically always been very kind of against real world religion in hobby board games. A lot of the time, I think a lot of the reason for that is because when we play games, it's to enjoy a fantasy. It's to kind of separate ourselves from reality for a little bit, enjoy fantasy. And so I think there's this natural inclination to avoid real world topics, politics, religion, and other things like that, and be united at the table. So we might be involved in politics, but it's in a big space opera where I'm this alien race and you're that alien race, and we're playing, whatever it is, right? So I think that, it's just at the end of the day, so we can be friends, right? And just be better friends than we were when we sat down, which is why I highly recommend against playing things like Monopoly or Risk.
It's funny because like in space games, like you said, they like sort of slide the politics in there. It's like, it's not politics, they're corporations. And each corporation has their thing. That's how they do it in space games. It's always you have to join a corporation, and that's your political side.
Corporatocracy.
I have a prediction related that I'd like to get in here, related to some of this, like fringe related. So next year is going to be an election year for the president of the United States, and a lot of other smaller elections and whatnot happening too, in the Senate and the House. There's this, anyway, it's just going to be a crazy year. I think that, next year will be absolutely crazy for politics, but, I think that there will be the beginnings of an economic bounce back next year. I think that we're going to start to see, certainly this administration, the Biden administration, is going to try to make themselves look good for the upcoming, really so the Democrats can have a compelling case, make a compelling case for why that party should be reelected into power. And I think that we're going to see, just in general, the normies, like all of us, are going to see our money is going to start to go a little bit further. Inflation is going to start to shrink a little bit more. And then certainly I think that if there happened to be a switch, if like JFK wins because he's running independent, which I think is a true threat, or, a crazy Trump is going to win or whatever, I think that there might be more cities burned down, but I really do think that there is going to be, no matter who sits in that seat, an economic bounce back that begins next year.
It's already starting now. Woo! Bounce back economy.
There we go. So I guess I'm already right. So I think as a result, we're going to see overall board game sales in the hobby space up. Like, people are going to spend more money on experience. They love experiences. Board games are a perfect fit for that hunger. People are constantly looking for new experiences. I think new people are going to get into the hobby, which a lot of people have this year. It's definitely grown a lot. Just from Hasbro's numbers, it looks really, really good for hobby level board games, but Asmodee as well. And I think that we're going to continue to see higher, like more spenders on Kickstarter, and more people getting into that hobby space with more disposable income. I do not think that we will hit any kind of ceiling or, market maturity. I think that, crowdfunding is becoming a more mature market, but I think that the overall board game space is going to be, there's just going to be more and more demand. And I think that the big bottleneck is still the distributors. Distributors aren't going to take new people on, but there are new people that are going to make great games that people want. And I think that the only direct route at the moment is through crowdfunding, unless you wanted to unless you have a bunch of money backing you, or distributors placing big orders, like or Target or whatever. So I think that that's going to be there you go. That's a big prediction of mine.
Now, it's funny, I wrote this down as a prediction, but I don't really like it. I'm not a fan of it. But board games are going to have more digital experiences. Some of them you've already seen have apps. I think there's going to be more apps out there for games. Maybe it'll be interactive websites. Maybe, possibly, I don't know if this has happened yet. Maybe you guys will know because you guys look at games more than I do. Augmented reality board games. That I think might happen.
We've seen some of that.
2024.
There was a really cool project, an augmented reality deck of cards for Dungeons and Dragons that would be like augmented reality spells, like Fireball or whatever. And that was kind of a cool project. I think it made a fair bit of money.
I think with the prices of the the headsets going down, from the different brands, I think that might be someone's going to do something with it this year with a board game, I think.
Yeah, so there is a website called boardgamearena.com, and that is something that is it's similar to something like Tabletop Simulator, where you have you're able to have a digital board game experience just through your desktop, but you can actually so programmers develop games for this. So you don't have to remember all the rules or remember, there's a new passive effect I have to keep in mind. The game will remember that for you and will automatically take the AI. The AI, can be programmed and will take turns and that kind of thing. And we're actually developing Deliverance for Board Game Arena right now. But it's just way larger than Tabletop Simulator as far as the audience that plays there. And I tend to agree with you. I think that trying, just ways, publishers are constantly trying to find ways to integrate an analog board game with like a digital experience. I think that's true.
And speaking of digital experience, one more thing, I think Twitch is going to become more prominent when it comes to promoting crowdfunding games, as opposed to, YouTube will still be big, but I think Twitch, I think there's gonna be more live streams of people trying out games for the first time and stuff, and connecting people to crowdfunding games online.
That would be nice. All we need is just a big personality.
So the augmented game we marketed was Augmented Arcana. Could link in the show notes if you're interested in that. Okay. I'm not too sure about Twitch. I don't know if you've seen the controversy around that lately in terms of their nudity policy.
Oh no,
it's turning, the platform is turning more and more into a sort of an adult content website. Let's say
what's that one everyone has a website on or page on? OnlyFans. Twitch OnlyFans.
Yeah, well, it's essentially becoming one of those websites. So I don't think it's going to last too long because it's becoming less game focused and more other things focused. So I don't think there's much of a future on Twitch, if I'm going to be honest.
I don't know. They seemed. I mean, they're pushing more. Well, actually, YouTube is now too, which is interesting. I watch a lot of YouTube. I have a YouTube Premium account. That's my entertainment. I don't have Netflix and stuff, so I just use YouTube because I figure there's more weirdos out there that I can watch and entertain myself with on YouTube than there is on Netflix. And in their live section, they focus heavily on gaming now. There's a whole gaming section in their live section or live video market. Yeah. So
this is why I only teach millennial and Gen Z stinky boys on Twitch.
I don't know what those are.
They're just stinky dudes that play games and are.
What about was it Asmongold? I used to watch him all the time. I can't say his name right. Asmongold. Yeah. Cool.
He's a stinky millennial boy. I love.
He's like. I used to watch him. That's like the only thing I used to stream on Twitch.
Yeah. So let's see.
Anything else, Sean? Okay. Before we cut you off again.
Any other predictions?
All right, so
I think all mine got covered.
One more. So I had one small one about Lorcana. I think Lorcana is going to continue. And by the way, I think that's evidence of just people loving hobby level games. I think that's actually going to bring a lot of people into the hobby that just love Disney and their various IPs and wouldn't be interested in any kind of other game, but because it's Disney, they're all over it. And then they're going to get more comfortable with hobby board game mechanics, and I think they'll stick around. But so that's one thing. I still think they're going to be number 2 to Magic. No one's gonna but the only person who will dethrone Magic is Magic, and they're just doing a really great job.
Disney this last year in 2023, and probably of course in 2024, has gone hardcore on bringing their IP out into the gaming niche. So, for example, the big one, of course, is Lorcana. And I'm actually excited because Ravensburger, that produces the game and creates the cards, they've started to catch up on demand. And so prices are no longer like 10x for some of these these cards and packs. In fact, I was happy because I got on Amazon and they had a sort of like a lottery to get the next chapter 2 of the cards. And I got 2 out of the 3, and I paid retail price. I'm so excited about that. Didn't pay 10x. But they've also, I don't know if you've looked, I go to Barnes & Noble a lot, which is a large bookseller here. I think they're all over the nation. And they have a gaming section, and there's like a dozen different Disney games in the board game section there. Also online, I play a lot of games online. They have their, is it Dreamlight Valley or something like that? They have a interactive game. They just released a free racing game with paid add-ons and whatnot is online now as well. And I think there's another game that they're just now getting ready to release. So video gaming, board gaming, card gaming, they're hitting like the gaming market pretty hard this year.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess in the interest of time, we'll probably move on. I have one more prediction I'd love to add in there, and then I want to talk about the memorable moments for the year. So last quick prediction from me is AI is going to continue to make waves in the board game space, and is going to continue to generally be garbage. I think that artists are going to continue to be in high demand. Good artists are going to continue to be in high demand, and that the general crowdfunding market is going to largely reject AI, we'll say cheesy, improper, quick, and dirty use of AI in games. I think that creators will use AI that do not have expertise to really kind of make those AI pieces into finished products, and they will continue to get shut down, not only by companies like Kickstarter, GameFound, but by the audiences themselves that suss out, oh, this is AI art and it's it's unacceptable kind of thing. I think that we're seeing audiences generally oppose this, like general audiences. So, and I think we'll see that continue. So then, okay, before we end, let's talk about memorable moments from this last year. Do any of you guys have like a memorable moment? Richard, did anything meaningful happen to you in this last year that
nah, not really.
Did you make anyone else's year memorable?
Was it this year where I got eaten in the woods? Was that I get them all? It's weird because it's not like, I mean, I know in December is when pretty much our years start and end. That's when we sort of started, is right at the beginning of December or middle of December. But it all like I said, I can remember our first recording like it wasn't that long ago. So like they all sort of match up. So I get confused on if something I'm remembering is from a couple of years ago or last year.
Well, I'm thinking of a special lady who might or might not be listening to this, and you upended her world this year, didn't you?
It was a year ago. It was exactly a year. It was on Christmas Day. So I don't know when this is being aired, but it was on pretty much will be a year ago.
I think we're being aired on Christmas Day.
Yeah, so Christmas Day, I proposed to Julie, and we are in the process of going through the fun get to know each other more and get married.
Congratulations. That was memorable for me. So Sean, what's yours?
I suppose bringing Jacob on, that was sort of I think it was a big achievement this year, and it's good to have an extra hand on the helm, so to speak. And business has grown as well. He was really needed to come in and take on. And I think our original plan was that bringing him on would free me up to do other things, which it didn't, because we just continue to be busy, and that's sort of where we are, which is good. But I'm just really thankful that he's been able to join us full time at last, because I know he was working part time for a while. Mm-hmm. And then I think the other thing is just I sort of created this more internally for us, a system in which we can onboard clients faster through a form and spreadsheet system, which is going to save all of us a lot of manual work. So I'm excited to see that starting to be used more being used more in 2024. And I think it's really going to just help us internally be able to process things faster and, be able to serve our clients in a more efficient way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I had two very memorable moments, both, I guess kind of blended personal and whatnot. But, the birth of my son was pretty awesome. It was our first home birth. And holy cow, I was so scared because, it's our child number 7. And my wife she's so good about, having babies and everything like that. But it was extremely memorable because it was so uneventful. And immediately as soon as it was over, we were in our house, and it was like such peace. And it was incredible that like if you're considering a home birth, I highly recommend it. It was really, really great. But I don't know if I would do it for my very first baby. It's always scary, but that was extremely memorable for all the right reasons. Praise the Lord. And then of course the actual release of Deliverance. The thing that I worked for over 7 years, like 7.5 years. And finally people outside of, my physical arm's reach playgroup got to experience the physical game itself and just judge it on its own. And it's currently on Board Game Geek, the highest rated. I say this without having done full research on Board Game Geek, but knowing the various Christian games that are out there, it's currently the highest rated Christian game on Board Game Geek. And so we're hovering it at like an 8.7 with over 400 reviews now, and we have close to 200 10-star ratings out of that, and a ton of people are, comment and that kind of thing. And we held number 1 ranking for the first time earlier this month, and so that was pretty memorable. Like we're doing something that is not just a flash in the pan, and so that's where I guess that's my memorable moment. So anyway, looking forward to an awesome 2024, and I hope we get to do another 52 podcasts next year. And if we don't talk to you in between now and next week, have a happy new year, and I don't know, buy Deliverance
and stay nerdy, Dad. Stay nerdy.
Stay nerdy. There you go. So, all right.
We should just end that with every episode. Just buy Deliverance.
Just buy Deliverance. All right. You wanna end it for us?
This is going to be Rick with 2 personalities here. Are you ready? This is my really cool outro for us. And that wraps up another exciting episode of Crowdfunding Nerds podcast. We hope you have found today's insights and stories both inspiring and informative as you navigate through the thrilling world of crowdfunding. Absolutely, SEO wizard Rick. And don't forget to visit our website at crowdfundingnerds.com for more resources, show notes, and exclusive content. Your journey to crowdfunding success is very important to us, and we're here to support you every step of the way. That's right. We'd love to hear from you, so share your crowdfunding experiences, ask questions, or suggest topics on our Facebook group, crowdfunding community, whatever, at facebook.com. Yes, and if you enjoyed our podcast, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it with your friends and your fellow crowdfunding enthusiasts. Your support means the world to us and helps us reach more amazing creators like you. And of course, join us again next week for more tips, tricks, and behind-the-scenes stories from the crowdfunding world. Until then, keep dreaming big and stay nerdy.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week's episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. For more resources, articles, and to listen to past podcasts, please visit us at crowdfundingnerds.com. And if you have a crowdfunding question, we also have a page on our site where you can send a message directly to us. Please visit crowdfundingnerds.com/question. And if your question is a great question, we may include it in a future podcast. Thank you all again for listening to this week's episode, and we'll see you next week. Stay nerdy.